Today I'm going to be talking about how to plan a month's worth of content when you don't know what to post. I'm going to start this with a confession because I think plenty of business owners, marketers, and people trying to build a personal brand will recognize what I'm about to say. I struggle with content ideas too. You know, when you need to be visible, you know that people need to understand what you do, what you know, and why they should trust you. But then you sit down at the screen and think, what am I supposed to post about today? Then you remember you have your own LinkedIn profile, perhaps an Instagram account, and a company page that is sitting there looking a bit sad because you cannot spend every week posting photos from networking events. You're not even at networking events every day. And even if you were, a stream of great to be in the room posts is not a marketing strategy. The problem, I think, is that we keep trying to come up with posts when we should be coming up with ideas. I was listening to Neil Patel talking about his content process recently, and he made a point that is so obvious once you hear it, but it is completely changes how you plan content. The post is not the idea is the thing that matters. A LinkedIn post, a reel, a carousel, a podcast, a blog, an email, or even a short video clip is simply one way an idea appears. That means you do not need to sit down at the beginning of every month and somehow invent 20 completely unrelated subjects. You just need to decide what you want to be known for, choose a small number of useful ideas underneath that, develop the strongest ones properly, and then use them across the month in different formats and for different purposes. So if you're sitting there staring at a blank screen, this is the process I would use. Start with what you want to be known for. Before you think about LinkedIn, Instagram, video clips, or carousels, write one sentence at the top of your monthly planning document. And that is going to be, what do I or what does the business want to be known for? That is a starting point, whether you're creating content for yourself or for a company account. It does not need to describe every service you offer, and it certainly does not need to be some grand brand statement written in language nobody would ever use in conversation. It's simply the territory you want the right people to associate with you. For my own business, that might be something along the lines of, I want SME business leaders to see me as someone who understands how to use AI in marketing without losing the human voice or wasting budget on activity that goes nowhere. That one sentence gives me a filter. If an idea supports that position, it is probably relevant. If it has absolutely nothing to do with it, it may be interesting, but it's probably not helping me build the recognition for the thing I actually want to sell. Your sentence will be different. You may be building your profile around leadership, technology, financial advice, manufacturing, digital legacy, workplace culture, property, well-being, or something completely different. The subject does not matter here. The clarity does, because if people see 10 posts from you and still cannot work out what you're about and what is the person, who you are as a business, the content may be keeping you busy, but it's not doing enough for you commercially. Find ideas in real life, not in a blank document. Once you know what you want to be known for, you need ideas that sit underneath that. And this is where I would stop trying to be endlessly creative and start paying attention to what is already happening in and around the business. Content ideas come from questions people ask you. They come from customer pain points, from mistakes you see repeatedly, from things people misunderstand before they buy from you, or an outcome they've achieved, from a project that taught you something, from a failure you would approach differently now, from maybe a process behind the scenes, from comparisons. People are trying to make and from opinions you've because you're actually working in this area. You can also create a simple Google Alert setup around the subjects you want to be known for, the problems your customers are dealing with, and the industry changes that could affect them. Google Alerts allows you to choose the topic, the frequency, the sources, and the region, so you can have useful developments arriving without spending half of your life searching for them. But the point is not to simply share every news story that lands in your inbox. The point is to ask, what does this mean for the audience I help? Do I agree with it? Is there something being missed? Is there a practical implication people should understand? So create one running note called content ideas and capture things as they happen. A question from a customer, a line from a meeting, a frustration you keep hearing, a result worth explaining, potentially a useful article or study that gives you a view, maybe a lesson from something that went wrong, a point you keep making privately but have never said publicly. Do not wait until you need to publish before you try to remember what is worth talking about. That is how you end up looking at a blinking cursor and seriously considering posting a quote about resilience. Choose 4 ideas for the month. When it is time to plan the month, you do not need to turn every note into content. Choose 4 anchor ideas, one for each week, that support the thing you want to be known for. Let me use an example for you. Say my monthly territory is helping SME leaders use AI in marketing properly. My 4 weekly ideas could be week 1, why AI written content is becoming so easy to spot, and that builds the trust. Week 2, how to use AI for content without losing the person or the business behind it. Week 3 could then be why AI will make weak marketing faster, not better, unless you improve the thinking first. And then week 4, how to create a month of content from a few strong ideas instead of trying to invent posts every single day. That is the month at a monthly level. I have not written 12 captions. I have not designed a carousel. I have not filmed anything. I have simply decided what I want to talk about and why it belongs in the same month. This is the bit that removes the panic because you no longer get a Monday morning and wonder what you're meant to say. You already know the subject. You're now deciding the best possible way to express it. Decide which idea needs to have a proper piece of content. Not every weekly idea needs a podcast or a full-length blog. Some ideas are strong enough for one good post or a short video. But 1 or 2 ideas each month may deserve more space. That could be a half-hour podcast, a 45-minute recorded conversation, a clear video where you talk through the entire subject, property, or it could be an 1,800-word article that answers the question in detail. The important thing is that the long form piece is not an extra burden sitting on top of the social content. It becomes the raw material for the social content. Take this podcast as an example. The essential idea is how to create a month of content without starting from scratch every single day. From this one transcript, I could create a LinkedIn post about the fact that I struggle with ideas too and why the blank screen problem exists. A short video using the line, the post is not the idea is the thing that matters. A carousel showing the 4 steps. Decide what you want to be known for, collect idea sources, choose 4 monthly anchors, and turn each into different content jobs. A separate post explaining the difference between personal brand content and company page content. A blog version for the website, a practical ChatGPT prompt that helps someone plan their own month, and a follow-up email or sales resource for somebody who says they're struggling to create consistent content. That is 7 useful pieces from one properly developed idea. The same applies to a written article. If you create an 1,800-word blog around one real buyer question, you can pull out the opening argument, the steps, the common mistake, the example, the checklist, the point of view, and the next step. Then use those as separate posts, short videos, or carousels. You're not repeating yourself pointlessly. You're allowing the idea to reach people in the format they actually consume. Give content a purpose. So once you have the weekly idea, decide what job each post is doing. I would use 4 simple jobs: reach, nurture, trust, and convert. This is not an official LinkedIn or Instagram formula, and I'm not saying the algorithm demands this exact structure. It is simply a practical way to make sure your content supports the business rather than becoming a collection of disconnected posts. A reach post is there to help get to the right people and audience to reach you, which normally has a strong opinion and observation, something that people think about in your sector are getting wrong. A nurture post helps the audience understand the issue. It might be a checklist, a how-to guide, an FAQ, a comparison, an explanation of what they should be thinking about. A trust post shows the person, judgment, or experience behind the content. It could be a lesson, a personal observation, something you've struggled with, a process you use, or the reason you care about that subject. A conversation post gives people somewhere sensible to go next. It might be a case study, a customer result, an invitation to request a guide, an explanation of how you help, or a clear prompt to contact you. For a personal brand posting 3 times a week, I would make the first of each post a reach or opinion post, the second something useful, and the third alternative between trust and conversion. So using week 1 as the idea, you could have written content, which would be on a Monday, for example. Most AI content is not being ignored because people hate AI. It is being ignored because everybody is beginning to sound the same. On Wednesday, I could write about a carousel on 5 signs your content sounds AI written. On Friday, it could be a personal post explaining why I started noticing these patterns and how I can check for when they're being published. The following week, the third post might be more commercial, perhaps a prompt, an audit offer, or a link to a guide. That gives the personal account a clear balance. People see the opinion, the usefulness, the person, and at the right point, the opportunity to work with you. What goes on the company account? And this is a question nobody seems to be able to answer clearly enough. You may understand what goes on in your personal account because it is your experience, your judgment, and your voice. But then there is the company page, and you're thinking, what are we supposed to post there when we are not launching something or standing beside a banner at an event? The answer is that you do not need a completely separate universe of content ideas. Use the same monthly anchor ideas but change the perspective. Your personal account is where you say, this is what I think. This is what I have noticed. This is what I have learned. This is what I would advise. Your company account is where the business says, this is how we help. This is what our process looks like. This is the result. This is the proof. And this is the resource. This is the next step. So on my personal account, I might talk about why I struggle with content ideas and why I realized that starting with the post was the wrong approach. But on the company account, reason why I would share our carousel showing the monthly content planning process, a post explaining how a strategy session turns expertise into useful content, or a client-focused post about building a content plan around goals rather than random posting. Same idea, different role. The personal account helps people get to know the thinking and the person behind it. The company account helps people understand the capability, the proof, and the business and how the business can help. For a company page posting twice a week, I would make one post useful and buyer-led, then make the other proof-led or commercially relevant, a case study, a result, a process, a useful resource, and a clear next step. That's enough. You do not need to double your workload. You need to stop copying the same post onto both pages and expecting them to do the same job. The tools that help you run it. The system itself does not need to be complicated. Use Notes, Google Docs, a spreadsheet, or Notion to help your running content idea bank. Use Google Alerts to surface relevant news, research, and industry developments around the subject you want to be known for. Use a podcast, a video recording, or a proper long-form article to develop the anchor ideas that need more depth. Use ChatGPT to help you organize your transcript, identify potential angles, carousel structure, a stronger hook, or whether something has slipped into generic AI language. Use Canva to create a repeatable visual format for carousels or supporting graphics. Use Riverside, Descript, or whatever recording and clipping tool makes producing the video content manageable. And if your content is designed to generate business, use a system such as Go High Level to capture inquiries, record where the interest came from, and make sure a useful conversation does not disappear into somebody's inbox. The tools are all there to remove friction. They should not be responsible for the thinking. So why is all of this worth doing? There is a business reason for building content properly. Research from Edelman and LinkedIn found that 63% of hidden B2B decision makers, the people who can influence a purchasing decision even if they're not the obvious contact, spend more than an hour a week consuming thought leadership. It also found that 55% use thought leadership when vetting potential suppliers. So the person reading your post or listening to your podcast may never like it, comment on it, or immediately contact you, but they may still be forming a view about whether you understand their problem, whether your approach makes sense, and whether you're worth bringing into a conversation. That is why content cannot simply be a box you tick. The page needed fed this week. It needs to give people something useful, reinforce the thing you want to be known for, and make it easier for the right customer to trust you when the need arises. So here's what to do next month. So when you sit down to create your next month's content, do not start with an empty calendar and ask, what should I post? Start with one sentence, what do I want to be known for? Then look at the questions, mistakes, outcomes, opinions, experiences, and current conversations sitting underneath that subject and choose 4 weekly anchor ideas. Decide which 1 or 2 need a proper podcast, video, or long form article, and then turn each weekly idea into content with a purpose, something that helps the right people notice you, something useful, something that builds trust, and where it makes sense, something that gives people a next step. Use the same ideas across your personal and company accounts, but let the personal account carry the voice and the judgment, while the company account carries the process, proof, and route to work with you. That is how you create a month of content without spending the entire month trying to come up with content. And in the next piece, I'm going to give you the exact ChatGPT prompt structure you can use to plan your own monthly content, whether that is for your personal brand, your company account, or both. So subscribe to the channel and follow along, because you do not need more random posts. You need a much better system for using the ideas you already have. Thanks once again for listening, and I'll see you next week.